Hey everyone, welcome to the Ceres Podcast. I'm Stelios, the founder and director of Ceres, but not your host for today. In this episode of the Ceres Podcast with Mark Petrou, we're thrilled to host a fascinating discussion between Mark and Giovanni Fionda. For me, this is an exciting Past Masters episode because I've been close with Giovanni for years, since he won Fish and Chips for the Year in 2010 and in his retirement from Fish and Chips as he's built his new career. I really enjoyed listening to Mark and Giovanni go at it. Let us know what you think in our Ceres Podcast discussion group on Facebook. Today's episode is brought to you by Ceres Curry Sauce. Imagine a curry sauce that perfectly marries sweetness with spice, with spices from around the world: turmeric, onion, cumin, cardamom and fenugreek from India, black pepper from Madagascar, tomato powder from Italy, coriander, chili and fennel from Turkey. The Ceres curry sauce offers a versatile base that is delicious on its own, or you can use it as a base to customise it to your heart's desire. With Ceres curry sauce, you'll unlock endless possibilities in your kitchen. And for those mindful of customers' dietary needs, the Ceres curry sauce is naturally gluten-free. No nasties, no colourings and no preservatives. It's pure, unadulterated curry sauce in every pot. But here's the kicker. Our concentrated formula means a little goes a really long way. Just 5 kilos of our curry sauce transforms to 41 kilos of sauce. That's under 6 pence a portion. So why give your customers ordinary when they can have extraordinary? Indulge them with the Ceres curry sauce, create sales and keep customers coming back for more. But don't just take my word for it. A verified review on our website from Albert come across this curry sauce by chance. After 3 years of serving it, we have doubled our sales. Having bundled curry sauce with meals is a winner too. Order the Ceres curry sauce from ceres.shop with free delivery to mainland UK. We also deliver to Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, all British Isles. We also ship to Belgium, France, Italy, Germany, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Spain and Greece. If you want to keep in the loop with what we're doing at Ceres, then you should be following us on social media. But to get the latest news and offers delivered to your inbox, then join our mailing list. The link will be in the episode show notes. And whilst you're there, join the discussion in the Ceres Podcast Facebook group. Now, let's dive into today's episode with Mark Petrou and Giovanni Fionda.
Giovanni, it's great to have you here. It's been a long time. We struck up a friendship when you were the man. You won in 2010. You were the 22nd winner of Fish and Chip Shop of the Year, and it appeared to the industry that you'd come from nowhere. First time entering, won the whole damn thing, climbed to the top of the mountain at the first attempt. But in fact, your family had been in the business 40 years, hadn't it?
Yeah.
Your parents, Raphael and Ida, had a shop in Sauchiehall Street, a cafe.
That's right.
in Glasgow, and they also had one in Hamilton. So you kind of grew up in the industry, didn't you? Tell me a bit about how you got into the industry before you thought about the competition.
Well, there was actually another shop as well before all that. So my dad, pretty much all my memories are, all my holidays, all my time off was all spent in the shops. And that's what, you know how it is. You're growing up, The first job I done was to fold pizza boxes. Then when I was big enough and strong enough, then you're in the tatty room, peeling the potatoes. My dad sold the shop that he was in, and he actually bought another shop which was about half a mile away from our house, which then was a game changer, because that meant I could go on my bicycle, pedal down to the shop, park my bike round the back, then I was in at all weekends, summer holidays, helping out. And
Sort of what age?
I mean, primary school. So, I mean, basically, I remember standing on like a sort of bar's juice crate and then operating the till at one point. And I remember doing that. I was a child, far too young to be in the shop. In reality, getting given sharp knives and freezing cold water, peeling the potatoes, and I remember it's like a rough upbringing because when you were sort of playing hooky and saying to your mum, "Oh, I'm not well," I remember my dad, he would wait till my mum went out the door and then he would just throw me a white overall and take me to the shop. So then the next morning I would go to school because you've spent, in that freezing water your hands, and it's the worst thing in the world, peeling tatties when it's
worse than school.
So the next morning you're up, you're away. But I loved it. I mean, I was always working myself up to frying. That was always like a treat. If I was allowed to, start putting stuff in the pan, that was like you felt so good. You felt on top of the world. You're cooking something. And that was it. Went through, my dad was doing that. He then came out of that shop. We went to Glasgow. At that point, I had no interest in school. Absolutely no interest. I was just basically going every day, just doing what I had to do to get by, always working in the shops. But even at that age, my dad was schooling me. My dad was he was shaping my mind, shaping how it worked. And my dad would always, I think you're the same as me. If you grow up being self-employed, you grow up with the idea that anything's possible in this world. You can do anything, and your outlook in life's completely different. So he would be sort of schooling me this way, and what my dad would always say to me, when you see something like a Ferrari, you see a Porsche on the street, don't admire the car, ask him how he done it. What did he do? And it shaped me into being very inquisitive, and I would always ask questions and then prod and prod and prod to the point where people would think I disagree. But it wasn't. In my head, I'm just trying to figure out how to extract what I need so I can do the same as you. And that's when I was coming to the shop, I was always coming from a sort of point of view where I was just pulling ideas together, whatever I'd seen from all different industries, and it was just that was what we were doing. And going back, I then left school, and my dad again was trying to slow me down. He didn't want me to go into the business at first, and he said, "Well, you need to get educated to come and work with me." So he sent me off to do chefing, which was fantastic. I mean, that gave me such an understanding of food. You understand the science behind food. You then got shown service tricks, which I didn't know anything that existed. And I think chip shops today still don't do it. And this was stuff which was standard in restaurants. That was brilliant, and it was just the nice skills from a chef's point of view. And all the time I had my dad teaching me business skills on the other side. But because college as well, it's like 3 days a week, I was working full time at the same time. And that was good. So I finished college after about a year, and then I was full time on in the business. But we were serving at that point, it was basically city centre, so people going to the theatre, clubs, pubs. So it was all singles. It was single meals.
Yeah.
And it was great, but you had to be fast. You had to be fast because when you're serving a single supper, you can't make money at that. You need its volume. And we came out of that shop, and my dad he decided, he says, "Look, we're going to sell it." We had a deal in another shop which fell through, but my dad honoured the deal with the gentleman because he says, "I've sold them. We've been put in a bad position, but I'm not going to do that to someone else." So then my dad sort of turned to me and he said, "Why are we so scared? Let's forget buying goodwill. Let's just do our own shop." And that's what we done. So the whole ethos of Atlantic was built around see how you get all these sort of out of town shopping centres and they're all built around parking? Well, that was the ethos for Atlantic. We didn't want to be in a city centre. We wanted to be out of town, sort of, and we were in amongst an estate. It's a housing estate, but we had a large car park, which then meant the customer's experience was really easy. They could just use our car park, which we were in control of, park, come in, get their fish and chips, go back out, and a lot of them actually ate them in the car park. And that was great. I mean, it worked. That was the ethos. It was, and all our marketing again was car park, car park, car park at the start, just so that we could drum it into our customers that we were easy to shop with.
You did so much more than just promote a car park. I remember when you arrived in the industry, you were doing things that just were a wake up to the industry. It was you built a system that harnessed technology long before online ordering platforms had really gone mainstream in the UK. You were focusing on customers, the customer experience. You were building in value in a way that nobody else was doing it. You'd really got to grips with how to drive your trade through marketing and using the internet long before it was cool or fashionable to do that. And when I met you, I thought this guy is showing the whole industry what the future is. Am I right in thinking that you are dyslexic as well?
Yeah.
So you've had challenges to actually master this as well, and you really woke the industry up. I mean, nobody was doing what you were doing.
I think we were just looking for sales, Mark. I know that sounds funny, but we had the shop, and then we used to have a weekly meeting, me and my dad, and basically every meeting went the same way. My dad's like, I want more sales. I want more sales. And it was pretty just like the same monologue every week. But what we would be doing is we'd be sitting down and be looking at it, and I'd be saying, well, how can we add in more trade? I don't want more staff in the shop, I don't want this. So we were looking to make the shop more efficient all the time. And it was all about efficiency. And we were looking at it. So it like says, when we had the shop, we started off with the delivery system in the back. And then we very quickly figured out that the shop was disjointed. So we took the till off the front shop, and then we put the same till system, which was in the back, into the front. So they now started to talk to each other. And then what happened is we then put in make screens. The make screens that we had in the shop then told the fryer and the pizza chef what to do. But on top of that, beside them, we put doorbells. And the doorbells all had separate chimes. So if there was a pizza going to delivery, the pizza chef would hit his button, and then the girl who's working in the back bagging up the deliveries would then come through the front and know it was a pizza. Or if it was a fish supper, she would go to the range. But then what it took out the shop is it took the stress, because you now had a till system which was operating everybody. And that was then sort of slowing, it was like taking the stress out, and it allowed me then to talk to customers, because I used to be saying, you can't talk to me, and I'd be counting 4 fish suppers, 5 fish suppers, 3 special fish, 2 scampi, and you're doing all this stuff you're trying to order, and you're not managing the shop was managing me, and that took that out. But then the way the till system actually ran inside the shop was a bit like your McDonald's drive-thru. So the customer would go to the first till, they would place their order, that would then send, if it was any items to be cooked, would then go to the chefs. They would follow in, so as if like in McDonald's, you would go to the next window. By the time they arrived at the counter, their special fish or their pizza would actually be cooked. So in the customer's mind, we were taking the orders maybe 10 minutes prior to them getting to the counter. Yes, of course, when they got to the counter, they can add on, which we were always looking to do, upsell. But that sped up that. But then on top of that, we had the collection point. Now the collection point, that was operating. We were able to do 70 collections a day off the collection point, and that was again adding on. But the delivery team in the back were bagging that, not the front shop. So again, that allows the front shop to operate faster. But you hear all this chat about people don't want to take cards. We were actually encouraging our customers to pay cards, because then when you come in for a collection, they were in our shop in about 30 seconds, 40 seconds, and back out with their order and away. Because if you've paid, they're just basically coming in, and again, there was another doorbell there. The girl on the till would hit that. When she's seen somebody at the collection point, the girl would come through and say, "What's your name?" "McCluskey." And they would just go away, grab the bag that says McCluskey, and give it to the customer, and they're away. And that took the pressure off that side of the shop. I mean, we had basically another frying range operating in the back of the shop So that was only frying chips, but the girls would come through the front to get the fish. But that was purely because we just couldn't keep up with the chips. So in theory, there was 2 chip shops within one chip shop, one operating in the back doing deliveries and collections, and then one in the front serving the takeaway.
But the phrase or the word click and collect hadn't been invented for another 5 years.
No.
And you'd given your customers a way to bypass the queues, pre-order, just walk in and go straight out.
Mark, that was mad. It was me that invented click and collect, and everybody ripped off.
I know it was you. I could, because I saw it. I was aware of it. It really was. And the thing was, nobody really knew how to deal with Giovanni Fionda, because you weren't part of the fish frying community. You were a 27-year-old kid, in their opinion. You were a young man to climb to the top of the mountain, to come in and just... it was evolutionary at the time, because nobody was doing what you were doing. I didn't really know how to take you until I spoke to you and found out what a really nice guy you were. And I think, well, I wanted to know how you felt about how the industry took you when you won the award.
They didn't like me. I got a lot of stick. I mean, to the point I went to an event and I came back and I thought, oh, screw it. I'm going to just basically do my own thing. Because we were at an event, me and my wife, and the guy was outright just nasty to me and my wife, because at the time, I mean, you're going back, I mean, you've got to remember, I'm going back 10 years ago, and I was basically preaching then and saying, do not let Just Eat in your shop.
Yeah.
And if you go back, I wrote the article on it, and this guy was like, what are you talking about, Just Eat? And it was so far from his brain. And and then I'm going on about like collections, and I'm saying you've got to protect your own customers' informations, and I had an app out, and these people, it was like speaking a different language. But to be fair, it wasn't just the people at the awards. I mean, up here, I mean, my own family who are in the business, they just couldn't understand what we were doing, because it was just, we were stealing things from different industries and bringing them into the fish and chip world. I mean, and you're trying to translate that to people, and they're saying, but where's that came from? And I'm saying, well, I took that from Tesco's. and it's like, and it's stuff like that. I mean, we were talking about like upsells. People are saying, what are you talking about upsells? And I'm saying, well, we're doing £1,000 a week in upsells. And it was just about retraining your staff, instead of saying, I mean, how many times you've been in a shop, they'll say to you, would you like anything else? It's just a wasted opportunity. I would have my staff say, do you want a garlic mayo? Do you want a cheesecake? And the confusion on the customer's face results in a yes. And it's not because they wanted it. It was just confusion.
Yeah.
And you're doing £1,000 in garlic mayo in a week. And it's extra sales. I mean, it was stuff like that. But that came from the girl in the petrol station. I went in to pay for my petrol. She went, do you want a chocolate bar? And I had the same reaction. I was like, okay, yeah, bought it. And then I came out and I thought, I need to do that.
The old Jedi mind trick.
and it's things like that. I mean, I think all the counters in chip shops are all wrong. Even what we had was wrong. I mean, it should be a display cabinet. It should be a glass shelf there, just showing you. If you're selling pickles, they should be able to see that. People eat with their eyes, curry sauce, gravy, on display. Just like when you go into like the IKEA and they've got all the stuff out, there should be an element of that. And the upsell you would get just off the viewing that would be phenomenal. We didn't have it all down, but I knew where our mistakes were. I mean, there was just... I think in the shop I was very reactive. I mean, there was stuff going on inside my shop, and I had to react on the spot to it. I mean, I had, for instance, we'd run a promotion at this point, and I think it was for Fish and Chip Shop. National Fish and Chips Day. And we were giving away free fish suppers to every 50th and 100th customer. So this guy comes in, and it's a big bell, they rung the bell, gave the guy a free fish supper. So we thought nothing of it. Guy took the fish supper, but he bought a fish supper as well, went away. A few weeks later, the guy comes in and he's chatting away to me and he says, I took your fish supper to Benidorm. And I'm like, Yeah. So at this point, my brain switches on straight away, and I instantly go, "Have you got a photo?" And the guy says, "Yeah," and I'm like, "Can I have it?" "Yeah." Straight away, he says, "I'll be back in an hour." I says, "That's fine. Your dinner's on me again tonight." Straight away, I'm on the phone now. In those days, I had a contact who used to sell stories to the tabloids. So I'm on the phone, and this guy's like, yeah, I'll be there. So got the photo within 2 hours. They came to collect this photo off of me, and then we were on all the front pages of the tabloids the next day. But this is where I think, like, shops are not reactive. They need to be listening. They need to be switched on. I mean, our ability is to change, adapt, listen. And during COVID, I feel like a lot of shops just got it wrong. They didn't respond. I mean, you're the superpower. McDonald's had to wait for somebody in America to say they could open.
Yeah.
We were in control here, and I think a lot of shops, they were scared. But
I opened all the way through COVID.
Yeah,
I did.
I was the same.
And
I mean, what I do, I never stopped. I kept going. But I mean, I think that's the thing, is that I always felt that being an independent was a superpower, and I could react, I could change. If something wasn't right, we could tweak it, we could move it. We just done loads of different stuff, and I think a lot of people would come in and chat away, and I would pick those those golden nuggets from them. I mean, I remember Duncan McLean, I don't know if he's still about, he was in Henry Cobeck.
He's retired, but I mean, Duncan's very well known.
But he came in, he made a passing comment to me, at this guy, and he keeps a note, and he's in the margin of all his accounts of what's happened that day when he puts his takings in. And I thought, what a fantastic thing to do. So we started doing it. But then what that allowed us to do is then you could see why that day you turned over more money. So the following year, when you're adapting, doing your staff, you would know, the football's on, or it's Valentine's Day, we need more staff, we need less. But then equally, we would then start marketing. I mean, we used to do a marketing programme a year in advance. So for the entire year, we knew what we were going to do. And then we were able to build on everything. I mean, and that's what made the shop busy, because we were constantly, it was all strategic. I mean, there was Halloween is the second busiest day of the year in our shop. And you think, why? Because we done stuff for the kids. The whole shop got dressed up with decorations. You remember we used to get the Cobeck, and we used to do the meal deals. Yeah. We used to keep, remember there was always an extra toy in the box? We used to keep them. And then when it came to Halloween, we would make up bags and put those toys back in. But the kids, once after a few years, the kids worked out, the shop became that's like the second busiest day. And it's just because we were giving away a bag with a wee bit of sweets and a toy in it to the kids. So the parents would all bring them in, buy a fish supper or buy them their dinner on the way home and get this sort of treat. And we were doing stuff constantly like that, even like Christmas time. We had all the delivery drivers, they used to dress up as Santa Claus for the month of December. So they would then go out delivering. But then in December, our deliveries would go through the roof, because all these parents wanted Santa to come and deliver the fish and chips for their kids.
It's amazing.
And it cost me something like, I think it was like 40 quid a suit, but we made so much more money off of that. And it was great fun.
How many other chip shops do you think plan their marketing over a year in advance?
None. I don't think they were doing it. I mean, it's... I think...
How did you think of doing it now?
I don't think... It's different. We were running it, and I don't mean disrespectful, but we were running that shop as if we were McDonald's. You know, we were sitting down, I mean, it's like... You would go into the back shop, and you could see my dad counting a jar of pickles. And you'll think that's mad, but my dad would be working out the exact margin we made on a pickle. He would work out the exact margin on every single item that we sold, so that when we were doing our pricing structure, we knew exactly, we were making the same profit on every item we sold. And yet you go into other shops and they would be like, you get their menu and they're like 10 pence cheaper than us, and I'd be like, how can they be 10 pence cheaper than us? We're buying 1,000 boxes at a time. They're not getting the same price as us.
Yeah.
But they were assuming that we were pricing right. Yes, we were pricing right, but we were pricing based on our buying. I mean, we used to buy a year's worth of packaging at a time. So,
crikey.
We used to do that because we had the whole entire top floor of the shop floored in the attic. And so we used to buy it and put it all up in the attic. Because it was non-perishable, we could then basically buy in mass bulk. But then that brought our costs down. And then you'd be looking at the competition. How you can't be competing with us at these prices? And sure enough, a lot of them drove themselves out of business. Because they were trying to compete with us, but they didn't realise we'd worked it all out.
Yeah. Brilliant. So I remember when you were still champion, inviting you, and I think it was you were newly married, maybe just coming off your honeymoon, down to the Chippy Chat Ball, and that was in Coventry, and you very graciously accepted. But at the time, I could sense there were reservations because of how the industry had failed to recognise really what an amazing gift you'd brought to the industry, and but you came, and how was it being in a room of 300 fish fryers and every single one of them knew you, and yet you only knew me? It was a pleasure to have you there, but I did feel as though you just weren't welcomed as you didn't get the experience as champion of Fish and Chips of the Year that you really richly deserved. So I'll let you answer that question in a minute. But before, I just want to recognise that I looked back at articles of you winning for this podcast, and in nearly every single article, you mention your staff, you mention your parents, your family, and you mention your community as reasons why you are such a winner, why you never took any of the glory for yourself. So, two-part question. How much of the win was you, and what was it like coming to Coventry?
I enjoyed Coventry, actually. That was one of the events where I actually felt more comfortable. I felt
Good.
not under fire down there, because I think it was more relaxed. It was more... I think there was... I remember breakdancing.
I wasn't going to mention it.
I remember that. It was good. I mean, it was good. It was just... I always felt it was like... But it wasn't just down there. I mean, in general, I come from a whole family of, like, chip shop owners, and none of them could understand what we were doing. In the end, I used to just keep quiet and just say, well, if you want to know, I'll tell you. I'm very open that way, and I'll help. I'll always help. But I never just wanted to get into a discussion, because it's like the old saying, you can take the horse to the water, but you can't make them drink. Yeah. And you just couldn't get them to understand that it's all about customer experience. I'm not trying to get you to fry the fish faster. Absolutely not. I mean, I always took the quality of our fish and chips for granted. I set out rules for the boys, and I says, this is how we do it. And I says, that's the standards, let's do that. But everything else around about that, I tried to make go as fast as I possibly could. And I tried to turn that. I mean, that was... So when you're talking to these guys, if they got it, some people were brilliant. I remember Matt from Matt Bedford. He was rude. Yeah. Matt was good. Matt used to phone me and ask and quiz and pick away, and I was happy to tell him. Andrew Cook, he was open. They were chatting away, and his family was nice. His mum and dad, they all came up to see us. They came as a family, and they were lovely.
Matt's doing very well, by the way.
Is he?
He's got, he's doing very well, and he's got kids of his own as well now. So, and he'll be listening to this podcast, so he'll appreciate the mention.
No, he was a nice guy. Probably need to go and see him at some point.
we all need to do a bit more of that.
But I mean, we always worked as a team. Back home in the shop, I mean, my dad's basically an accountant. That's what my dad was. He worked for me as an accountant, managing all that side of it. So without him doing what he done, I couldn't do what I done. And the team that I had in the staff, I mean, some of my staff had been with me since I was like 15 in the previous shop, and then they just came with me, and then worked with me, so I had full trust in them. But I always recognised them because they were working as hard as me. I mean, there was one guy with me, and we didn't take a day off for two years. The two of us worked. Because every time we were about to be able to take a day off, the shop got busier. So that extra staff that we'd employed, that chef, we've trained them up, we now needed another chef. And that was what kept going on. But, I mean, I enjoyed it. To me, it was like a big game. And I was just trying to basically get the customers and get the shop to do things the way I wanted. So when the customers come in, I wanted them to buy the products that I wanted. And I was manipulating. I wanted them to order the way I wanted them to order. So when they were online ordering, it was easier. I didn't need to pay a girl to stand on the phone. The customer does it all. I mean, you're seeing that now in the supermarket, self-scan. Well, we were doing self-order. It's just the other way around.
14 years ago.
Yeah, but it was too far advanced at the time, but the stuff we were doing, even like all the reusable bags, we were doing all that back then.
Yeah. So I know that away from work, you're a keen fisherman. You do like your fishing, and I remember when trade finally broke and you managed to get a little bit of time off, you actually gave me some great advice, and you told me to get some balance in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that fishing was always an escape for you when you got a chance to do that. Do you still like fishing? Do you still go?
Well, I've had 2 kids since then.
Things change, don't they?
So the fishing has took a back seat. I mean, I'm still very keen, but I'll be honest, I don't get a lot of time to do that. But that's through choice. It is through choice. It's because, I mean, I work a very different lifestyle now. I'm like a Monday to Friday, 5 o'clock I'm home. Saturday, Sunday, I like to spend time with my kids.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to influence them. I don't want somebody else. I want to be influenced. The way I was influenced by my parents, I want to influence my kids.
Yeah. So, when the time came and the opportunity presented itself and you decided to exit Atlantic, talk me through that. How did that come about? Was it always part of the plan? Was it just somebody just got out a really big checkbook and said, "Look, just give me a number"? How did it happen? And I also remember back then you were already dabbling in property.
Well, property, I'd actually been doing it since I was 17. So I started really young with it. So I'd always been at it. With the other question, I mean, all of the above. I mean, everything you do, there's always going to be an exit plan on it. So the shop was always never personalised in terms of, we picked a name which could be sold on. It was like that. We didn't plan to come out at that point. We got an offer and we sort of sat up and looked at it, and my dad sort of went, we need to wait another 10 years to get that money, or we take 10 years worth of money today and walk. And my dad was done. He was burnt out. I mean,
it's gruelling. That's a busy shop you had.
Yeah, I mean, we were turning over £29,000 a week.
It's not a small number today, let alone back then.
I mean, you're going back. I mean, it was. I can't remember what I first. I think a bag of chips was £1.20, and we were doing that kind of numbers. And it was week on week, and it was just grueling. I mean, I loved it. I mean, I was buzzing in the shop all the time, but my dad just didn't have the legs anymore for it.
Mate, you were 27.
Yeah. Oh. But, I mean, you've got to remember, Mark, as well, I'd already done, probably 15 years prior to that. And what I found is that when you grew up inside a chip shop, I craved a life.
You get sucked in. You do get sucked in.
And I'm very, very... I'm like an addictive personality. I can't do things in halves. So I'm all in.
That's obvious. We get that.
Yeah, but it was like... So I just got to a point, I said, I want a better lifestyle. I want to be, you know, being in hospitality is all about serving other people and giving everybody else a good time, and I was ready to be on the other side of all that.
Yeah.
And we came out, and it was brilliant. I mean, it was great, but I must say that it was short-lived for me. You know, I struggled. Because to find who I am, I mean, all I ever knew was fish and chips. And you're trying to reset your life and find something else, and there was no creative outlet. Whereas in the chip shop, I could do whatever I wanted. You know, something took my fancy, I would just start tweaking the shop and doing this and that. And your creativity, I was constantly meeting that. And that was, I found that hard. I found that side of it hard.
Yeah, I get that. So the opportunity presented itself. You took it. What was your plan after that? Just take a holiday? Did your dad stop working completely? Tell me what were the next steps for you?
Well, my dad also does a wee bit of dabbling about in property, different bits and pieces, but he's sort of went like semi-retired, does his bits and pieces, whatever he likes, and they're very keen gardeners, so they just basically done that, and I think he's enjoyed himself a bit more. Just took life at his own pace and does what he likes. On my side, I sort of kind of struggled a wee bit, then just went a bit more full-time, hard at it into property. Done that for a few years, and it was great. I mean that was good, but then the banks completely just fell out. So the way I was sort of structured that business, I had to slow down again. And I ended up, I couldn't find that creative urge. And I tried to get a job, didn't work for me. I'm just unemployable. I'm not, I tend to try and take over. And I want to fix problems. And I couldn't do that. And then I ended up, now currently run a soft landscaping company, which it was the lifestyle, that's what attracted it to me, and I love doing what I do, and it's just, the lifestyle is different. I mean, I'm there, if my wife's got a problem, she phones me, I'm home in 5 minutes. Yeah. I'm in complete control.
So physically, you're tiring yourself out every day, but mentally, you're not challenging yourself the way that you were before when you were running your own chippy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I miss that. I miss the being innovative. I miss that sort of buzz and being able to tweak things and say, you know, like, oh, I created that. And it's that, you know, extracting that sort of side of you, it's hard to fill that. And my wife does say it, she says, I can see you're stirring. She says, I can see you're stirring. You know, you're not at peace.
So when you were at the top of this game, what type of frying range were you using? Were you using traditional pans? You weren't using high efficiency. You weren't using Dutch ranges. You were, you know, the skill involved in producing the fish.
There's no chip shops in Holland, Mark.
There's no chip shops in Holland.
No. So forget your Dutch range. There
are loads of chip shops in Holland.
We were using the original high efficiency. Yeah. Basically, it was a P&T on steroids. Yeah. What we had, it was with filtration.
Yeah.
So the filtration system and that was phenomenal. But I like the Preston Thomas. It's the quality of the fish, because it holds the temperature and then it starts climbing. And then you put your fish in, and by the time you put that last fish in, the temperature is just starting to plateau, but the gas is on and it's fighting. So I always felt it was that side of it. I loved it. I mean, that was the Scott range, and it was brilliant. And the service was fantastic. And Stevie and Craig again, they're just great guys.
There's a reason why I asked that question, because I'm going to take you down a bit of a rabbit hole. We're going to go.
Okay.
I'm going to get you back into that. So when you were producing all these fish suppers, the skill to produce that product was really on the fryer, because modern frying equipment is very, very controllable. So the type of pan technology that's available today, the high efficiency ranges, has de-skilled it a lot. So the question I asked was for a reason. So the stuff that you were producing required you or somebody of really high skill to be there to produce the food. Do you think that with the modern pan technology, the modern EPOS systems, social media, the online ordering platforms, that you could effectively come back and build another epic fish and chip shop and not have to stand in there yourself and work on the business rather than in the business? Because you were at Atlantic, you were on the coalface, you were on the front line, you were waging war every day, maintaining standards. You wouldn't need to do that. I'm not trying to tempt you out of your landscape business, but have you ever been tempted?
Oh, I'm tempted. I loved what I'd done. There's no question about it. I mean, I don't remember my time in fish and chip shops. I remember it romantically, like a romantic movie. You know, I loved it. I mean, it's the lifestyle, and I'm of this kind of personality where I've got to be there. I mean, even like I says, I didn't fry every day in the shop. I mean, I had one day a week in the shop where I worked on the business. I was in the shop, but I would be in the office and I would just basically be working away on the shop. But I very much feel that you've got to be there. You're only as good as the last fish supper you fry, so you've got to be there working on it. I mean, on a Friday, Saturday night, busiest day of the week, so I didn't fry, but I stood inside that shop and I was like an airport conductor, and I would be just watching, picking up the mistakes, making sure everybody's coordinating, everybody in the right direction. But I would just stand right in the middle between the delivery and the collections. But a lot of what made us great was there because I was in the business, so I was reactive. So I would be looking and seeing. I mean, I believe that growing a fish and chip shop, you grow it through complaints. That's how I grew my business, and that's why we entered Fish and Chip Shop of the Year. It's the same thing, because I wanted negative feedback. That's what I was looking for, because when we would get a complaint, I would deal with the customer, but instantly I would then dissect what went wrong, because then I would want to eliminate the problem and say, I never want this ever to happen again to any other customer. So we would go right round to grassroots and find out, and if that was as simple as installing a label printer onto the make screen, which we done, which printed labels out, so then you would stick that onto the box with an order number, so then they could never be confused and go into the wrong order. And that was the motivation for Fish and Chips of the Year, because we done the Seafish Award, and it was, I think, Stuart from Asheville. He explained to me that I could ask for my scorecard. When I failed to get in, I could ask for the scorecard, and then I could then get this back. So I thought, somebody's going to come and critique my shop for free. Brilliant, I'm in. So they're going to tell me I'm in trouble. So that's what I done, but I never got that card back.
No, because you won it.
Yeah, it wasn't quite but that was it. I was just looking for people to come in and say, how do you move this thing forward? And it was, we were always doing, moving things forward. And yeah, I think there is another shop in me, but whether I could do it or not, I don't know if I can give up my current lifestyle.
No, let the kids grow up. Wait till you've got an empty nest and the wife wants you out of the house from under her feet. That's the time.
I mean, I know what shop I would open. I could tell you right now. I would open a drive-through.
Would you?
And I think, you imagine doing a drive-through and drive-through collections. Boom.
Yeah.
I think that would have been just phenomenal. Phoning up, getting a collection drive-through. I mean, I don't know how McDonald's hasn't tapped onto this yet, because they're taking online orders, so why can you not online order it and collect it and just go straight through the drive-through?
Well, they do say now when you get to a drive-through, and it is fairly recent, are you ordering through the app today? So I guess they are finally getting their act together on that, but it's a new thing. So Stelios told me, obviously he's the boss here, and he said to me that you used to run your businesses by looking at working backwards, basically from a problem, to make service more efficient. Can you give me any examples of when you would back engineer something from a problem to make it sing better? Which he said it's one thing that he's always admired about you is the way that you always find solutions to things by working backwards from a problem.
It depends on, what I'm trying to think, it would be like, basically goes back to what I was actually talking about in the complaints. So if it would be that, I know I kind of covered that. The one that I remember was the label printer. But even on the problem could be as simple as, like, how do we add more? After we won the competition, we added the other range to the back shop. The problem we had was we couldn't do the volume. So we're always assessing the problem, like you say, and you're dissecting it, and you're trying to figure out, how can we speed this thing up? How can we do that? It's hard to think, 'cause we're going back, it's a long time ago. But we were constantly looking. And that's what I would say to people. It is one of the best bits of advice is, if you get a complaint, figure out why it happened. And then go right down. And then what you've got to do is say, how do I stop that? And it can't be just tell the staff not to do it. You've got to put something in place where that can never happen. I know, like, this is one other thing I can say. It's just like, I remember the Environment and Health coming in, and they said to me, how can you prove that the girl doesn't use the floor cleaner to wash the dishes? And I thought what she said, and I says, I can't. So the next day we got rid of all the floor cleaner, and we used to wash the whole shop in bactericidal. Simply because I was like, well, we'll never ever be able to make that mistake. And when she came back, she asked me the same question. I says, we only have one product, bactericidal. And she says, that's so expensive to do. And I said, but there's never ever going to be a mistake.
Yeah.
And it was just like anything, we would try to take a simple approach, but I think it's mindset. And I think that's the problem with self-employed people, is that they're so opinionated that they become closed-minded and they're not open. And that's where I struggled when I did win the competition, was that they just weren't open to listen. And I'm not saying I had all the ideas, no, because I was still changing and developing, but they were just horses, the same way, same day, every day.
Yeah. Yeah. When you look back, what are your highlights of winning?
The highlights of winning? I think it was, do you know what? It was good to get recognition, and I think it's a strange feeling being told that you're the best in the country at what you do.
Was it nice to give that trophy to your dad?
It was. It was really good. It was recognition. We'd really been working hard, and it was just good to sort of, my parents put a lot of trust in me. They put a lot of money behind me, and they trusted what I was doing. When I was doing some things, they didn't agree, but they trusted that what I was saying was, there'd be fruits in that. But equally, it would go both ways. They would say something, and I would have to say, right, okay, I'll concede this time, or you concede. But it was good. It was good to sort of say, well, look what we've done, and we've been told. It's just a strange feeling for somebody to say that, and I'm not I don't like to brag. I'm not that kind of person, and that was funny. It was a funny thing, funny feeling. It was brilliant. And I remember they announced the award, and they tell the press before, and you're underground.
Yeah.
So I phoned my wife to tell her that we'd won, and she's like raging, and she was like, I'm not talking to you because you didn't phone and tell me you won. Because she knew that we'd won the competition before I knew.
Before you... Yeah.
So she'd fallen out with me. And I was like, but I didn't know.
Yeah, they do. Where the awards used to be held at the Riverbank Plaza opposite Big Ben, there was no signal down there.
Yeah.
And they told the media, and it was embargoed until 2:00. So people in my hometown knew before we even did. And they couldn't reach us, and so we, same situation. But when I won, it was the only time my dad ever got emotional, ever. So yeah, it is nice to be able to, after your parents have put 40 years into something, and their trust and their faith in you, to be able to say, look what we did together. and I suppose it kind of galvanised your relationship with them as well.
Yeah, it does. I think running a business for your family, it puts strain. It's hard because it changes a dynamic, and especially like in an Italian family, there's a hierarchy. But I had a 50% stake. Yeah. And that becomes quite challenging. And it does, but the way we dealt with it is we had separate jobs and we didn't cross. And that was it. And I think if that's the way we made it work, and it was good. I mean, there's a lot of great memories. I don't know if you want to hear this. I don't know if you know, it was Tracy from 149 that came to...
Tracy Poskett?
Yeah.
To bits.
Tracy came in to do the judging on the shop. So she came in, she got her first supper, went out and sat and ate in the car park. During this time, 2 ladies decided to have a car accident in the car park. And then, so these 2 girls come into the shop arguing, and Tracy comes in behind them. So they're arguing and they're I'm trying to calm these 2 women down, and they're saying, can we see the video footage of the car accident? Because they're trying to figure out who's at fault. And then Tracy's saying to me, can I have a word with you? And I'm saying, could you just give me 1 second? So I'm going to the office and I'm playing on the big screen this car accident, and then I'm burning a disc on a CD, and my wife comes, she was in the shop at the time, she was on the till, so she comes into the office and she says to me, I think the lady you've just told to go and stand at the back and wait is the judge. And I'm like, oh shit, here we go. So I've came back out, and sure enough, she's getting out her wee white jacket and all the rest of it, and I just think, I've made a mess of this now. She came in, she was lovely.
She's lovely.
But I just remember, it was a bad start.
And she's very knowledgeable too. Yeah, she's a very worthy judge. And obviously she won the award with Matthew, and I'm hoping to get both of them on, probably not at the same time, to talk about their win.
If you do tell her she owes me 50 pence. She stole 50 pence off me.
I will tell her.
She'll know, because she stole 50 pence off me. There was we were doing stickers on 50 pence pieces saying this 50 pence piece is worth £1 in Atlantic.
Yeah.
So
again, I copied that. When you told me that you were doing that, I did that. And that works. It's brilliant.
It was good. But I mean, she took the 50 pence away.
I bet she did it too.
No, she wrote about it as well. And to be fair, she gave me credit when she wrote about it.
She still owes you 50p though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will. So, what advice would you give to anyone that was thinking about entering?
What advice would you give? Well, first of all, I don't know if they still do it, but if they give you back the feedback, even if you don't win, get that feedback. Use that to better your business. And then if you do win, my advice to you is, you're in for a ride, a rough ride. I mean, we went to the awards turning over comfortably £19,000 to £24,000 a week. We came off that plane and we were turning over £29,000. And that is hard. Somebody just basically throws that amount of trade at you. And I'm not talking about over like increments. I'm talking about, adding...
Instant.
Yeah, instant. And it puts massive pressure on you. I mean, it's like you're basically just turning the dial up and you're going to see if you can survive. Don't make the mistake I made. Do more for the industry. That's the thing that I regret. I regret I didn't, interject.
Don't feel guilty about that. You shared with those that listened, let me tell you, and you made a massive impact on the people that took the time to find out what you were all about. That's why I was so pleased that you agreed to come on and pod, because I felt as though you needed the recognition for it, because you were available and you did everything that you could, but not enough people listened to you at the time. And what you've done stands up today, all this time down the road. You've inspired me already, and with 3, 4, maybe even 5 bits of gold just in our conversation that I've gone, yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, that's brilliant. I think any advice that you've got to share, the listener ought to pay attention. Tell us more. Tell us more.
More. I mean, there's loads. I mean, I think if you're going to open another shop, go cashless. That's my advice.
Go cashless. You see, so many people are going cash only because because of the VAT element.
No, that's
cashless.
people. I mean, how fast is it? I mean, you can want money. See, if I had my shop, I mean, it's so slick. I mean, it's speed. We make money in volume, and this is where people they've made the mistake that they've forgot. You don't make money out of selling the best fish supper. You make money out of selling the best 1,000 fish suppers. That's where the money's made. It's in the volume. I mean, we used to stand behind the staff with a stopwatch and figure out how to speed them up. I mean, I remember
when you go
being on a holiday in Mexico, and I watched the guy making a pizza. Now, see when you get the corrugated boxes, he never ever folded the lid in. So the wee top, see the wee lid at the top, that was left out. And what he would do is grab the box by that, and the box instantly opens. And I was like, that's phenomenal. First thing I done when I came back was I changed, a simple wee thing, didn't cost us anything, but it sped the girls up. And this is where I think people need to realise that it is fast food. We're not saying cook it faster. What we are saying is get the process quicker, get it slicker. And see, when you do that, you need less staff. And so you're not spending as much because you're just more organised. You've got to look at in your shop and see where you keep the tongs, where you keep all the instruments, where the boxes are stored. If the girls are needing to walk to the back shop to fill up the salt, then that's silly. Put the extra salt under the counter. It's all time, it's inefficiencies.
And when you go cashless, people don't watch how much they're spending as much either. When you've only got a tenner, you're only spending a tenner. When you've got your card, you're having that bit of cheesecake, you're having those add-ons, and you don't come away from it feeling as though you've spent, that it was expensive, or B, you've overspent. So going cashless, it kind of makes sense, but some people in the industry will think, is he mad? But when you explain it,
if you want to staff your shop, then you can't steal off you. Counting the till, that's no longer an issue because there's nothing to count. I mean, it's just such an inefficient thing. Cash. See if you actually think about it, and I know a lot of people will be like screaming, but that's because they're at the fiddle. We never fiddled. We put everything through the books. So to us, cash was a nuisance. We used to try and pay all the delivery drivers, pay the staff in cash because you had to go to the bank with it. So the less cash that we actually had, the more people that paid by card, the better for us because it was in our bank.
Yeah.
And it's if you want to basically better yourself, then fiddling the taxman's not the way. You need.
Yeah. And you're talking about a problem with cash handling that wasn't even there. There were banks on every high street 14 years ago. Now you're looking at a 60-mile round trip to get to a bank.
Yeah, but I mean that's, and I think that it's the technology from when I was doing it. I mean, wanting money, that just, to me, that would blow my brain. I think that's phenomenal. It's just, I think you've got to embrace technology and you've got to take it on. You're feeding modern customers, and the modern technology is all about customer experience, and that's what a good fish and chip shop, it's got to have that. I mean, I go out, I'm now a customer, and I think the customer experience I get is terrible. It's shocking. I mean, you get at shops and there's just no atmosphere, there's no love, there's nothing there. I mean, my staff...
Relationship.
They were all told to talk to people. When they came in the shop, although we were going as fast as we possibly could, they were chatting. But because we were so efficient, we could chat to customers. Because you had the time, because you weren't wasting your time. You were standing there, so if somebody came in for a collection, they would hit a doorbell, a girl comes through, but while that customer's in there, the person at the till would be having a normal conversation, and time's passing, and it's just, people assume that you're shoving them out. You're not. It's just, the more efficient you are, then it means the better experience you can give your customer, because people don't want to be standing in your shop for hours on end. But at the same hand, if you've got time to engage with them, then the experience becomes better.
Yeah. Who outside of the fish and chip industry impresses you when you're a customer?
The customer experience outside the fish and chip shop industry. Trying to find a chain that I could say, then that would be so that everybody can relate to it. I think, trying to think now and see.
Let me throw a few at you. If I said to you Costa or Starbucks, what would you say?
I wouldn't frequent them. I go independent for my coffee.
Do you? Okay.
I'm an independent one, but what I would say is I quite like Starbucks. I like the service in there. I think they've got it. It's slick. They've got it down. You know.
Yeah. I prefer I prefer a Costa experience.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer Starbucks coffee, but I think the service
Mm-hmm.
in Costa, I think for me, I get a better customer experience. Starbucks, I find, I don't think I'm really the right class to go into Starbucks. Maybe Costa's aimed a little bit lower. I don't know. What about Pizza Express?
Do you know what? I've never been in one.
You've never been in a
Pizza Express.
Well, again, I always find the pricing grates on me,
Mm-hmm.
but I find I get treated very well if I take my family into Pizza Express. I don't like the pricing. I think the pricing is pretentious, but I think the service and the hospitality in the high street is I quite like it. I feel as though I'm looked after when I go into a Pizza Express with my family. But
I mean, I'll still opt for an independent. I still feel with the independent you get a more personalised service. That is the truth. We'll go out, when we go to restaurants, and I tend to go out for a meal with a restaurant, and we're looking for kid friendly. But I feel that the independents, they are still catering better because they're more personalised. And that's just my sort of shoot of it. But takeaway wise, I just feel that the shops are, especially after COVID, I think there's a lack of customer care there, and I think that they're missing it. I mean, it's got to get slicker, it's got to get easier, because customers want that ease. They want everything to be made easy for them now. We're all so time poor, we're all in a rush. So if you can ease that and make that slick, make it, I mean, Amazon, one touch, boom, done. I mean, that's the best customer service I can see. I mean, we were doing that and we were trying to get it as seamless as we could, just so that it would, the easier it is, the quicker, the less chance your customer have got to change their mind. But it's just, it's all down to preference.
So we're gonna wind up soon. Is there anyone in the trade or in your memory that you wish to acknowledge that you've not mentioned, that had an influence on you on your way up, on your journey through and coming out the other side? Any books, anything that you think somebody would benefit from? Now's your platform, your chance to get anything off your chest.
Well,
that you want to say.
I would need to acknowledge, as a gentleman, Bert Giaconelli. He done a lot as well in changing my mindset and opening up. And this is a guy who was 76 years of age, and he's more forward thinking than I was.
Right.
And he had run various fish and chip shops, and he was streets ahead. And he basically went to the States and stole all the ideas, and then came back here and interjected them into his shops. And he was so switched on, and he helped me out. And this is a guy that he came into the shop one day, we hadn't opened it, and he said, "I hear you're going to open this super shop. can I see it? And we sort of thought, who's this? Come in then. Come in and get a coffee. He came in, looked about, and he went, it's wrong. And I'm like,
Right.
what? And he sat down and explained to me where the mistakes had been made. And he went through it, and the way I am, I quizzed and quizzed and quizzed. And I changed it all off the base of this one chance encounter. And this is the first time I met the man. And
his name was Bert
Giaconelli.
Giaconelli.
And he was a trendsetter in his time. And he came back. I phoned him. I says, could you come back and see me? He came back and we had it open. And he said, we've changed all that. And I said, yeah. He said, you were right. And he continued to come and see me maybe once a month for well over a year. And then after a while, he didn't come in, but we would go and meet for a coffee out with the shop. And he just became a really trusted friend, confident, I would say.
Yeah.
And
is he no longer around? Is he?
His health's not great. He's not the same. I mean, he's obviously. I mean, we're going back as well. Remember, time's passed on.
So he's in his 90s now.
Yeah, I mean, but he was. I mean, this guy was running 17 businesses. He had a Harry Ramsden at one point. He had. I mean, he was pretty up and at it when he was on it.
Wow, he knew his stuff.
Yeah, I mean, but again, that was just me being open, and I think that's the thing. What else did you ask about? I'd need to acknowledge my parents, obviously.
Yeah,
and
your wife. Don't miss her out.
and then I better mention my wife as well, obviously. I better mention her for giving me basically the space to be who I am and just trusting me, because then obviously I go down that rabbit hole and disappear.
Yeah,
and that's not easy to live with when somebody's disappearing like that and becomes consumed with something, and you're basically out for a meal and he's somewhere else. He's watching something else that's going on in the restaurant, and that's just the way I am. Books. You asked me about books. Maybe, again, 2 books stand out to me that I like, and it's How to Sell Anything to Anybody by Joe Gerard. And this guy he's actually Italian, changed his name so he could sell more products to Joe Gerard. But again, it was about, to me, what I took away from the book is about mindset, and it's getting yourself into a certain way of thinking. The other book that I loved, it was 48 Laws of Power, which isn't about control, it's about reading characters and understanding people's behaviour. So then what that allows you to do is, when somebody's coming at you, it's how you respond. So if you're in business and you've got staff, sometimes it's better if you understand characters, because then you know how to deal with them. And I found that book very helpful, and it was that was recommended to me by somebody else.
Brilliant. Well, I think we've come full circle to a point where I think I've teased enough out of you for the listener. I've really enjoyed catching up, and I know when I stop recording, we're going to have plenty to say. Gio, thank you so much for taking the time to be part of this Past Masters.
No, thank you. I mean, by asking me to do this, I had sat down and think and had to relive a lot of memories, and that's been lovely to do.
I'm glad. I'm really glad. I'm going to work harder at being a better mate and keeping in touch, and I will definitely be speaking to you again after today. Thank you so much.